Welcome to the Bowling University studio from the International Bowling Campus in Arlington, Texas. I'm John Karabatsis, and I'll be your host for this edition of the Bowling University Profit Break. Thank you for joining us. Our mission here at the university is to enrich people's lives personally and professionally, and the Profit Break is an opportunity for sharing insights on how to grow revenue, reduce costs, and enrich yourself, your team, and your business. If you're joining the Profit Break for the first time, welcome. We're glad you're here. Give us 15 minutes and you will be on your way to improving your profitability. So, one of the biggest challenges we face today is the impact of inflation on our business, especially in the food and beverage operation. Successfully navigating your way to profitability requires you to take a total look at your overall operation. Our guest today is Bryant. Bo is going to provide some proven strategies for battling inflation. Now, some of you may remember Bo from his session at Bowl Expo, if you were lucky enough to attend that. For those who weren't, Bo has over 30 years in the restaurant business as an owner, concept developer, as an author, a consultant to some of the most gifted and growing concepts. So, Bo, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule today to share your knowledge and your expertise with us.
Good morning. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks a lot for having me.
I know you're a busy man. So, this is a really hot topic. So, let's dive right into it. And food prices are going up. Labor prices or costs are going up. In all of your experience working with, as a consultant in your operations, what is your number one recommendation for maintaining profitability during times like these?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's something that we certainly covered at the events at the BPAA, and menu management, hands down, it is number one, and it's getting comfortable with menu management, getting comfortable with changing prices. When we had our discussion on stage in front of your team, I hate to be redundant, but I guess I would give just a handful of core takeaways. And we see this across the entire landscape. Operators are very uncomfortable taking menu cost increase and passing it along to the guests. They fear that reaction. And so just a couple of the core takeaways when it comes to menu management is, number one, take the price increase, calculate your food cost on your items, understand what those are. And when pushing across a menu price increase, we advocate strongly that you do a little bit of rearrangement in the menu when it comes to just the way that the items are listed and the sequence that they're listed in. That way, when you make price changes, the guest doesn't have that recorded memory of what is where and how much it was, because guests do have a fantastic way of memorizing items and prices. When you disrupt that or create a pattern recognition disruption, the guest is all of a sudden looking at it in a different way. That's definitely number one. We also encourage be a little creative with some of the adjectives and even some of the naming rights to some of the particular items. It doesn't have to be a full-blown menu reformat, but the inverse, the reckless thing that we see that does create this pushback is when you just change the pricing and nothing else, the guest acknowledges that and sees that. So I guess that would be number one when it comes to maintaining profitability through inflation.
Well, and you mentioned about repeating, and menu management can be a complicated process. So we appreciate the repeating. I mean, they say leaders are repeaters. So just over and over again, and then eventually most of us will get it. So thank you for saying that. So now you mentioned the menu management, and there's a whole lot to it. Is there one aspect of menu management that typically is the most overlooked during times like these?
Yeah, it's a great question, too, and it's another kind of a compound answer, and I guess I would give two parts to it. The precursor to the answer would be have that fluid system so that you have awareness of what your plate cost is on every single item. Always have that, right? That's going to help inform the answer to the first question around menu management. But when it comes to just kind of trudging through an inflationary period, always knowing what those food costs are per plate really, really helps you to focus on where your wins are. When you have an opportunity to find an item that hasn't been impacted as negatively, that becomes the item or items that you need to continue to market and promote and push and upsell, because obviously where that win is that opportunity to offset the burden of the items that are getting hit so hard.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Hopefully that makes sense.
You know, with overlooking is one thing, and again, because it's such a complicated topic, I think, but is there one area you think that operators don't even think about with their menu management during times like these?
Yeah, I would think actually it goes a bit outside of the menu, and it goes to the way that we purchase. And I've found, I don't want to be disparaging in my remarks, so I want to be careful, but there can be a hostility at times with operators and their distributors. Sometimes we feel like in inflationary periods, the distributors are getting rich, and they're really not. And while they may not necessarily have a lot of wiggle room to do anything with the pricing directly, line item by line item, we have found a lot of success in talking with the distributors about what are some key behaviors or changes that we can make relative to the way that we're purchasing. Can we buy more? Can we take less deliveries per week with the higher frequency of cases on those deliveries? For example, could I go from 3 days a week to 2 days a week? Would that have an impact on my bottom line? Everybody's feeling inflation the same way. Everybody's trying to find creativity in that solution. And I can tell you we've had great success with distributors saying, absolutely, we could push some more to the bottom line or give you an incentive for drop size or whatever it happens to be if you would work through us to kind of mitigate that burden on us for how much our cost is to deliver. And hopefully that translates.
Well, that makes perfect sense. So I think what I'm hearing you say is that you need to be a partner with your distributor and go to them and say, how can we make this a win-win for both of us? And understand that they're facing some challenges as well, but go to them and see what kind of suggestions they may have.
Yeah, and that's one part. I think I would like to just compound that with a little bit of an extra answer, if you don't mind. I would say that during these times, and we see this through every economic downturn, and inflation is nothing but the inverse of an economic downturn, just hitting us on the other side, where the sales haven't necessarily tightened up, but the expense has gone up. So the one thing that I would tell everybody is we all tend to get a little bit relaxed. We're making hay while the sun is shining, so to speak. When times get lean, it's important to tighten up, go back to the basics of blocking and tackling, go back and investigate, like I said, the food costing, make sure you understand what the up-to-date pricing is, but also go back to your portion control methods and inspection and making sure that they're being executed properly. This is just a redundancy in training, inspection, portion control, and tool methods. All of that type of stuff is really, really good to reinvestigate during this time, because you can find small little leaks, and we all know it's a game of pennies, but those pennies add up for sure.
So get back to the basics, make sure you have good systems, and make sure you're implementing those systems, and more so than ever during these times. All right, great advice, thank you. So let me ask you this, because sometimes a reaction that most proprietors may have is to cheapen the brand or to cut costs that affect quality or service. Are there any other areas or any other ways that we can help offset inflation so that doesn't become apparent, that that we've cheapened our product or we don't have good service? What else can we do?
Yeah, another great question. And I do see people kind of have that knee-jerk reaction. They'll start qualitying down on the product. They'll start reducing portions, and the guests feel that, and they absolutely don't have an appetite for that. But I think the intuition is right to be looking for ways to create an impact. The ones that typically aren't felt or tasted or as recognizable are really just lessons in efficiency. I will tell you, one of the biggest pieces that we go after often is in our production. We find leaks in production all the time, and I'll give you just a really quick anecdote, because we see this a lot. So when I talk about production, I'm talking about the prep schedule, and I think I've shared this in both the conversations, all three of the conversations that I had from stage with your group, but it's worth repeating. When we build our production list, we make sure that all of our PARs are up to date, but we also make sure that all the PARs on our production list have an expiration date. Like, what's the shelf life of the product that we're producing? And if we track our production for a week and we see that we've made an item that has a 7-day shelf life every single day this week, we use salsa as a classic example. We like to look at something like that and say, okay, what's our setup time to build that item? So let's say we're making a big batch of salsa and it takes us 10 minutes to set up our station. And we produce the item regardless of how much we produce. And when we finish it, it takes us 20 minutes to tear down our station, label it, date it, put it away, clean up the station, put the product away. That 30 minutes, on a 7-day shelf life of a product, if I went from making it every day to once every 6 days, I'm not putting myself in jeopardy of having spoiled product, but I just found 5 days at 30 minutes, so 3 man-hours that we were able to capture back. And that's just a wonderful tool for capturing efficiency and something that we look at quite often. So that's a really, really good place to go and hunt for opportunities for saving without necessarily compromising quality.
That is great advice. That is a great example. Thank you for that. So, all right, we have time for one more question. I mentioned earlier that you're an author, and you've written several books. Is there any one of your books in particular that you feel may best address what our topic is today, and how do we dealing with these inflationary times?
Sure. Thank you for the shameless plug. Not looking to get rich on the books by any means. It's really just kind of a pass-through for us. But On the Menu, the one that's dead center, it's a book with probably 100 different menu rules based on psychology, sociology, fair market value, the principles and practices of just the overall psychology of menu management. So if you think the conversation from stage was good, you dive into this, it's a heck of a read. And it kind of hits every menu type, whether you're full service or quick service fast food, it doesn't really matter. There are rules and psychological elements associated with all of it, perception and value. I think it's a good read, and it's a quick read with a ton of bullet points and probably over 100 different ideas around menu management.
Awesome. And you know what? That's important across our members. We run the gamut, from counter service all the way to full service. So good choice there. All right, Bo, thank you so much for your time today. I know you're a busy man, but you have great insight, great knowledge. We appreciate you taking the time to share that with us. So if you'd like to learn more, I'm sorry, I cut you off there. I didn't mean to. If you'd like to learn more about improving your food and beverage operations, you can connect with Bo at bobryant.com or by visiting his website, bobryant.com. As we wrap up another edition of the Bowling University Profit Break, remember that when your focus is on growing people, people will grow your business. We look forward to seeing you next time for another great episode. If you have any questions about today's show or would like additional information, you can reach us anytime at education@bpaa.com. Also, you and your team can watch any of our previous episodes 24/7 by visiting bowlinguniversity.net. The Profit Break is now available when you want it, and we have new episodes premiering every month. Until then, I'm John Karabatsis, reminding you to do for one what you wish you could do for everyone. We'll see you next time.